The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on the IMI2 Core 9 topic on addressing the clinical burden of Clostridium difficile infection, evaluation of the burden, current practices, and setup of a European research platform. My name is Catherine Brett, and I'm going to be your moderator today, and I'll kick off the webinar with a little introduction on how to use GoToWebinar. And then my colleague Nathalie Seigneuret, who is the scientific officer responsible for this topic, is going to give you an introduction to the main presentation and also give you some tips on how to put together a good proposal. After that, Clarisse Demont from Sanofi Pasteur will present the core topic, and at the end of the webinar there'll be plenty of time for questions and answers, and for that we also have Cedric Mahé online as well. So how to use GoToWebinar? It's very simple. You can expand and minimize the control panel, you can make it go full screen, and you can raise your hands to attract our attention by clicking on the raise hand icon. From the audio point of view, you have two options. If you want to listen over your computer speakers, just select mic and speakers in the audio panel. If you have problems hearing us, obviously you should check the speakers are switched on and not muted, and do a sound check to make sure that GoToWebinar is picking up the right speakers. The other option is to listen in over the phone, and for that just select telephone and dial the numbers given. If you want to get the number for another country than the one that comes up automatically, or if you have a problem, try another number under the additional numbers link. For most of you, the most important thing is probably going to be the question and answer session. If you want to ask your question in writing, just type your question into the questions panel and click send. If you want to ask your question over the phone, then raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon, and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question that way. So before we start, just some little housekeeping messages. We did launch IMI2 Core 9 today, including this topic, and you can find all of the information you will need on the IMI website. And Natalie will say this, but I'm going to say it too because it does bear repeating. Please, please, please do take the time to download and read the core documents. This really will help you to put together a good proposal. We are recording this webinar and we're going to publish it on the IMI website and the YouTube channel. We'll also publish the presentation slides so you can refer to them later, and we'll circulate the participant list so that you can network with each other, because again, putting together a good proposal means putting together a consortium, so you will need each other. So on that note, I will hand over to my colleague Nathalie.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining this webinar on this core topic. So the objective of this webinar today is to give you some information on the aspect on the core topic, mainly the objectives, the need for public-private collaboration research, some information on the suggested structure of the project, the expected contribution of the applicants, what would be the contribution of the EFPA participants, as well as the key deliverables. This webinar will not cover the rules of the procedure. There will be another webinar which took place on the 25th of April, and the presentation and recording are published on the address that is mentioned on this slide. It's very important, as Catherine mentioned, that you go and read all the core documents which are published today on our website and go back to the rule and procedure, especially if you are already familiar with IMI rules and forms or H2020, since some modification have been introduced for this call for proposal. So it's very important that you get familiar with these documents. Now, submitting a proposal, what are the tips in order to be a successful applicant? The first of all is really what we say, read all the material on a website. It's easy to forget and not to refer to the right document, or not reading everything that can help you to put together a good proposal. You need to understand, of course, the IMI2 rules and respect them. Now, if you have any questions, you can always contact us at the IMI office using an info desk email address and asking us for the question, and we will answer you. please do not contact the EFPA topic coordinators that will be presented today. This is very important to keep in mind since we are in a competitive call. Provide all the information the reviewers will need to evaluate your proposal. So again, when you put together your proposal and you fill the template, try to put yourself in the shoes of the experts on what they will need to see and to understand from your proposal in order to make their judgment. And if you want to know what would be the criterion on which your proposal you will be evaluated, please have a look again on our documents on the website, since you have the evaluation form published, and you will see the criterion and the sub-criterion that the evaluators will look at when reviewing the proposal submitted. So this is very important, as you can make yourself already a first assessment on whether or not, based on the criterion that the experts will look at, your proposal is clear enough to address all these points. Remember, we have now launched the call. There is a deadline for the submission of the proposal. Make sure that you start as early as possible to work and not being at the last minute. This is something that can be seen if some application seems to be very last minute put together. So you have now time to prepare, to work, and to put together your consortium. So don't lose time if you are interested, and start preparing it. When you submit using our tools or Sophia tool, make sure that when submitting your proposal, you finalize it and submit it. This is very important. In our website, you will find a web page where you have more tips for the applicants, and I will certainly advise you to have a look at this web page in order to get some further information on how to be successful. Now, what are the common mistakes? There are some absolutely easy one that could be avoided. It's making sure that you understand what are the admissibility and eligibility criteria. This is frustrating to put together a proposal when actually it won't be admissible and eligible just because some criteria have not been fulfilled. And there are not that many, but obviously miss the deadline is one. If the proposal is completely out of scope, this is another one. If the submitted text does not respect the proposal template, if there is not the minimum number of legal entities, this is very important, and again, it's explained in our rules, so make sure that you read and understand them. And to increase your chance of success, be aware of the redundancy between the partners, that all objectives of the core topic that will be presented in a minute are not addressed. This is an important aspect, and limited the impact of the proposal despite scientific excellence. Now, how to build your consortium? This is often a question that we receive, how to reach out some other partners who could join the consortium. We don't have the magic recipe. However, we have some tools which may help you to start working on putting together a consortium. First of all, you can network with your own contacts. You can network with your fellow webinar participants. You will receive the list after this webinar. You can use the IMI Partner Search tool and register in this tool. This is a way of knowing who is and what expertise can be available. You can, of course, get in touch with your local IMI contact point, and you have the email address where you can find them. Talk to your health national contact point, and use this as another possibility, the network on social media, and including the IMI LinkedIn group. And this is a way, by using all these sort of ways to reach out to people in order to build your consortium. And on this note, as I said, during now and the deadline for the submission, if you have any questions, please use the info desk at imieuropa.eu, and we will answer your question you may have. And on this note, I will pass now the floor to Clarisse for presenting the call topic itself.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank everybody who joined today. Thank you to attend this webinar and to listen what I have to say on our proposal to establish a consortium in order to address the clinical burden of Clostridium difficile infection in Europe. So just a bit of background of myself before starting. So I am Clarisse Demont. I'm epidemiologist by training. I'm working at Sanofi Pasteur Company within epidemiology department. And I am here with Cédric Mahé, head of epidemiology department. And I know that there are some other SPA partners over the phone. Now about the consortium itself. So it consists of bringing together people with different expertise, either on the disease itself, Clostridium difficile, or on methodology to collect, to analyze epidemiological or health economic data, and also with expertise on testing treatment practices. And next slide, please. Maybe you are in the next slide, but I don't see it in my screen.
We have moved to the next slide, yes.
Okay, perfect.
For public-private
on the need for public-private collaboration.
Yeah, good. Okay, so why we need a public-private collaboration? We believe that in Europe, there are already some data on Clostridium difficile, but interpretation of this data is, of course, influenced by different factors, such as local policy recommendations, testing practices, and also on the they are influenced by primary objectives to generate this data. And this primary objective could differ from country to country. So currently, we guess that in Europe, it's difficult to establish a robust assessment of the disease burden. However, for pharmaceutical companies, it is key to have robust data in order to make good decisions in drug and vaccine development. So as I said, we believe that lots of data are already available in Europe, but these data are sometimes not published or not communicated outside institutions where they are collected. So we propose this consortium to maximize expertise from different entities, such as public health entities and pharmaceutical entities, to first understand current practices and to make gap analysis on existing data in Europe. Then we would like to generate evidence to support effective control and prevention strategies. And to ensure that, we think that different perspectives and a broad range of diverse evidence sources need to be gathered and synthesized. Next slide, please. So the overall objective of this consortium is to develop a detailed understanding of the epidemiology and clinical impact of Clostridium difficile. More specifically, we would like to focus on three objectives. First of all, to align and understand the unmet public health needs related to CDI. Secondly, to identify the direct and long-term burden on healthcare systems. And finally, to set up an EU research platform to support new studies and potential proof of concept studies. Next slide, please. So by nature, this consortium is pre-competitive. For that, we need combined expertise, as I already said, and we think that we need different entities to share knowledge. We think that public health, industry, clinical societies, government and payers, and finally patients and society could be or could influence this consortium in order to feed its objectives. Next slide, please. Related to expected impact on the R&D process, we think that this consortium will support Clostridium difficile knowledge in Europe, and we believe that process could be divided into 3 activities. First, a synthesis of all efforts made at EU level to understand epidemiology and impact of CDI should be done. And secondly, to identify and fill key remaining gaps which are needed to support effective control and prevention strategies. Finally, we would like to develop a research platform to help the development of alternative prevention and treatment approaches, which could be helpful to answer remaining gaps identified previously. So currently this call is planned for 3 years, but with these 3 activities, but our aim is really to extend it for a more ambitious project where the research platform will be used to set up new studies. Next slide. So what the suggested architecture looks like, we see 4 work packages working on this consortium. One really dedicated to coordinate and to manage the project. The aim of the work package 1 will be to develop a complete understanding of CDI epidemiology and burden of disease. This work package will work on different topics such as CDI incidence in different settings, strain distribution, determination of high-risk groups of CDI, recurrences, and negative outcomes. We see the work package 2 to be dedicated to better understand EU practices, such as heterogeneity in testing practice and density, surveillance practices, treatment pathway of CDI infection and recurrences, impact of CDI management on healthcare system, cost of CDI including management of multiple episodes, rehospitalization, and finally on impact of current control measures. The task of the work package 3 will be to build a research network and platform. It will consist of researchers, medical and scientific societies, and why not patients, pharmaceutical companies, all people interested and engaged in CDI in Europe. Objective of this platform will be to enhance and speed up research on CDI. It will provide support for potential proof of concept studies. And also one deliverable for this work package will be to propose models of governance and also to map relevant stakeholders and their potential role in the platform. Finally, as I said before, one work package, the work package 4, will be dedicated to coordination to establish internal communication, efficient coordination, and to fulfill administrative tasks associated with the consortium. Next slide, please. So now I think something interesting for you is what we expect to see from the applicants. So we would like to have applicants who can provide access to healthcare databases and surveillance data to the consortium, with knowledge on the limitations of historical data sets and also knowledge on approaches to minimize these issues. We would like also to have people with experience of handling and analyzing complex and large data sets from multiple sources. Expertise on infectious disease modeling and cost analysis will be also relevant. Then, testing practices, treatment approach, public health program should be also well known by the applicant. Next slide. In relation to work package 3, experience with prospective data collection, development of proof of concept studies, and ability to attract external funding is very important. And finally, we would like to see ability to coordinate large research initiatives and to create scientific network, project management skills, coordination of multi-stakeholder from both public and private sectors are really important for us. Next slide, please. So we would like also to see in the proposal from applicants a proposal to create the full architecture. So of course, what we propose with the 4 work package could be adapted, and you can propose other architectures, but at least the different components should be taken into account. The most important thing for us is really to avoid any duplicate work. So we know that some other initiatives are ongoing on CDI at EU level, and the applicant should take into account this initiative in the proposal, and maybe also to propose some potential collaboration with ongoing or planned initiatives in Europe. To translate project outputs into regulatory, clinical, and healthcare practices, we think that interaction with regulatory agencies or HTA bodies should be proposed. Finally, as I said, we expect to extend this call. So a plan for sustainability and facilitating continuation beyond the duration of the project should be also proposed. Next slide, please. Now, expected contribution of EFPA members. First, I think it's important to know name of companies involved in this consortium. So we have Astellas, AstraZeneca, GSK, Merck, Pfizer, and Sanofi Pasteur. So we propose to provide in the consortium our expertise on epidemiology, health economy, methodology on data collection and statistical analysis, and we have also knowledge on disease transmission model, healthcare database analysis, and data and project management. So also, I think it's important to note that the in-kind budget for FPA for this call will be around 3 million euros. So next slide, please. Now to answer the question, why you should be part of such consortium. So as I said, as I put here, to be an actor, we would like to develop a pan-European multidisciplinary based research platform. And we think that having all European CDI expertise is key to ensure that needs either from public health perspective or industry are well taken into account in this call. This consortium will improve knowledge and help to disseminate evidence-based data on Clostridium difficile in Europe. So we think also that such consortium is supportive to develop interaction and transparency between public and private sector. And last but not least, we aim to answer CDI unmet medical needs and to propose new studies which should be conducted during the second step of this project. Next slide. So this is my last slide. And to sum up, key deliverables of the project. Do you see the last slide? Because I don't see it in my screen. Okay. So, key deliverable of the project will be to better understand and to communicate CDI epidemiology data across the European region, to provide insights in the differences in this data within and between countries. We would like to have a good quantification of the burden of disease and outcomes related to the disease in different settings. And also to better understand disease transmission. Finally, this project will help to identify opportunities for innovative prevention and treatment strategies. So thank you very much. And now I think this is the time for your questions.
Thank you very much, Clarisse. So as she said, it's now time for you to ask your questions. Today is, of course, not your last chance to ask questions about this call or the topic in particular. If you have any questions after today, please send them to infodesk@imi.europa.eu. I would ask you not to contact any of the SPO people directly, even if you know them, because this could raise concerns about things like conflict of interest. So please send any questions you have to us, because it's our job to help you. So, as I said earlier, you have two options for asking questions. The simplest one is to ask your question in writing, and for that you should just click on the question, write it into the questions panel and click send. If you want to ask your question over the phone, just click on the raise hand icon and we'll come to you. We have one question already from Don O'Brien. He says, I work for a government lab in biological standardization. We need a pharma company to work with us in order to apply. How can we find appropriate pharma partners? I think this might be a small misunderstanding of how the IMI calls for proposals work. So Nathalie, would you like to take that one just to explain briefly? But I would also suggest if you have questions like this, do take a look at the webinar we had the other day on our rules and procedures, because this will explain in greater detail how all of this works. But for now, Nathalie will briefly explain.
Yes, so as was mentioned by Clarisse in our presentation, so we have already a pre-defined industry consortium with FPA partners, and now it's time for applicant consortium, who typically are composed of academics group, hospital, research organization, patient organizations, small and medium-sized enterprise, etc., who've built a consortium. So there's no need to have a pharma company in your consortium. The selected applicant consortium, the one who will arrive first from this competitive call now, will be invited at the second stage to develop a full proposal together with this predefined industry consortium in order to build fully the proposal that will be again reviewed by independent experts, and if everything goes well, then the project will start. So at this stage, there is no need for having a pharma company to apply.
Thank you, Nathalie. Ed Kuiper asks, you mentioned other initiatives and preventing overlap with these. Can you tell me what initiatives specifically you have in mind?
Okay, so what I have in mind is other IMI consortium, like Combacti, for example, and also all other initiatives related to CDI in Europe, led by ECDC. So we think that currently there are some plan or ongoing initiative, and we think that it would be great to have interaction and to take into account this initiative to avoid any duplicate work.
Maybe I can just add, when you read the call text, the call topic, there will be mention already on some of these initiatives as example.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions for now, so if anybody does have a question, I really would encourage you to get typing. But probably because we now have the full call text available, a lot of the answers to any questions you might have will be in the call text. And if you can't find them, as I said earlier, do get in touch with us. I don't see any more questions, and there are no raised hands, so I will say thank you very much to Clarisse and to Nathalie for their presentations, and to Cedric as well for being on hand.
Yes, there's a hand.
Oh, there's a hand raised. Eric Francaville. Okay, Eric, I've unmuted you. You can go ahead and ask your question. Eric Francaville? There is no answer there. So I would say if anyone has a question, then do get in touch with us over email later, and we'll answer any questions you have. So thank you once again to the presenters, and good luck to all of you with your applications. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.